The Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra is here, and the question I've been getting a lot is how does it compare to the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and is it worth upgrading? Well, that's what we'll be answering in this video by putting these head-to-head with camera samples SuperSaf style. So let's kick off with the build and the design. So we have the triple camera ring design that Samsung's had for a few years, although the rings are now thicker, which should protect the lenses some more. But the key difference is that we now have flat sides on the S25 Ultra with these rounded corners, whereas on the S23 Ultra, we have these curved sides with some boxed off corners. Now, this has been a little bit controversial online. A lot of people prefer the boxy corners because it has some of that Note DNA. But I wouldn't say that the S25 Ultra's corners look bad. They don't dig into your hands as much as the S23 and S24 Ultra would do. The S25 Ultra is also smaller overall. It's smaller in terms of the height, width, as well as the thickness. And it's also quite a bit lighter, around 16 grams lighter compared to the S23 Ultra. So generally, the S25 Ultra is the more comfortable device to hold. But I would say that the S23 Ultra feels a little bit thinner because of its curved edges versus the flat ones on the S25 Ultra. Now, the S23 Ultra comes in 4 colors: the Phantom Black, Cream, Green, as well as the Lavender. There are 4 exclusive colors available from Samsung.com, which will be very difficult to get a hold of now: a graphite, a sky blue, lime, as well as a red. The S25 Ultra also comes in 4 colors. They are all called titanium: a titanium silver blue, a titanium white silver, a titanium gray, as well as a titanium black. Now, there are 3 exclusive colors available from Samsung.com, which are all also called titanium. So a titanium pink gold, a titanium jade green, as well as a titanium jet black. Now, as always, if you're interested in picking up the S25 Ultra and you want to get the best deal, then do check out my affiliate link down in the description below. That's going to give you double the storage as well as up to $350 in Samsung credit. Now, this will depend on the version you go for, but you can get a minimum of around $130 in credit. This is for a limited time only, so do check that out. Now, as the name suggests of the S25 Ultra, we have a titanium frame. The S23 Ultra has an armor aluminium frame. Now, Samsung haven't disclosed what grade of titanium the S25 Ultra has, but nevertheless, it is more premium and it's more durable compared to the armor aluminium of the S23 Ultra. I also prefer the matte finish of the S25 Ultra's frame compared to the glossy finish of the S23 Ultra. Both devices have an IP68 water and dust resistant rating. The S23 and the S25 Ultra both have Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the back, but the S23 Ultra also has this on the front, whereas the S25 Ultra has Gorilla Armor 2 on the front. Now, Gorilla Armor 2 is more durable overall. It's more resistant to fractures and scratches, and it's less likely to get damaged. But most importantly, it has the next-gen DX anti-reflective coating, and this reduces reflections quite significantly. And that's not the only improvement for the display of the S25 Ultra compared to the S23 Ultra. The S23 Ultra has a very good display, even to today's standards. It's 6.8 inches, has dynamic AMOLED 2X technology, a 1 to 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate, and a peak brightness of 1750 nits. The S25 Ultra, because of its smaller bezels, even though it's physically a smaller device, it has a larger screen, a 6.9-inch display. It's still using dynamic AMOLED 2X technology and has an adaptive refresh rate 1 to 120 Hz, but it now uses HOP 3.0 technology, which makes it more efficient, and it also supports MDNIE technology, which significantly improves upscaling content. It also has a peak brightness of 2600 nits. So improvements across the board for the display of the S25 Ultra. Now, it is a flat display, whereas on the S23 Ultra, we've got curves on the sides. In my opinion, curved displays look better, but flat displays are a lot more practical, especially when it comes to applying screen protectors. So I would say that although the S23 Ultra has a nice display, the S25 Ultra just improves overall, and in my opinion, it is the best display on a smartphone out right now. Now, one area where we don't have a change is when it comes to the fingerprint scanner. We still have the Gen 2 3D Sonic sensor on both devices. I've got no complaints with this because it works well on both devices. Now, we have to talk about the S Pens, but before we do, I'm not going to bring in SuperSaf or SuperSaf this time. Just myself reminding you, if you're enjoying this video so far, you want to see more videos like it, then do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon, and also smash that like button so this video gets recommended to more people. So although both devices have an S Pen, you may have already heard that the S25 Ultra no longer has Bluetooth with the S Pen. So what does that mean? Well, you can still hover with the S Pen on the S25 Ultra, but you're not going to get air actions. So that ultimately means that you're not going to be able to remotely control features on your device with the S Pen on the S25 Ultra, whereas you will be able to do this on the S23 Ultra. Now, air actions, the one that I think most people use is to use the S Pen as a trigger when you're using the camera, although you can use it within particular apps as well as to navigate around the device. Now, according to Samsung, just 1% of users actually use the S Pen remotely on previous devices, and that's the reason why they removed it. I know it's a deal breaker for a lot of you, but if it's not, then it might not be too much of a big deal. It's not been to me. To remotely control the camera, if you've got a Galaxy Watch or if you've got a Galaxy Ring as well, you can still do that. Now, to answer the question, can you use the S Pen from the S23 or the S24 Ultra on the S25 Ultra? Well, you can, but there is no functionality for air actions on the S25 Ultra. So even if you do have it, it's still not going to be able to do anything remotely on it. And you're not going to be able to charge this anyway, so it wouldn't make any sense. Now let's talk about the cameras. So some of the hardware remains relatively the same, but we do have some big improvements as well. 12 megapixel selfie cameras on both devices. We do have a new image signal processor on the S25 Ultra. For the rear-facing cameras, we've got a primary 200 megapixel camera on both devices, as well as a 10 megapixel 3x zoom camera on both devices too. But two big hardware changes on the S25 Ultra compared to the S23 Ultra. Firstly, the ultra-wide camera, this is now 50 megapixels up from 12 megapixels. And the zoom camera, we've got a 10 megapixel 10x zoom camera on the S23 Ultra. On the S25 Ultra, this is now a 50 megapixel 5x zoom camera. Now, what does all of this mean? So let me try to break it down for you. In good lighting, honestly speaking, it's difficult to tell both of them apart when you're using the primary cameras. Both take excellent photos with great dynamic range. However, in low light, thanks to the new image signal processor, you will be getting better images in low light on the S25 Ultra. Now, when it comes to zoom, at around 3x, both are very similar because of the dedicated 3x zoom cameras. But when you get to 5x, this is where the 5x optical zoom camera of the S25 Ultra kicks in. And this is going to give you better shots all the way up to around 9.9x. Now, when you get to 10x, this is where the 10x periscope zoom camera of the S23 Ultra comes in. And realistically speaking, things are very close. And that's because although you have a 5x zoom camera on the S25 Ultra, it does have a high resolution, 50 megapixels. So you can still get lossless zoom at 10x because it's going to just use the middle part of the sensor. Even when we compare these at 30x, things are very similar. And even all the way up to 100x, you will also notice an improvement when it comes to low light zoom. And that's because you've got a much wider aperture on the S25 Ultra's zoom camera compared to the S23 Ultra, which I believe actually uses the primary camera and crops in because the periscope zoom camera has a very narrow 4.9 aperture. Now with the ultra-wide cameras, once again in good light, it'll be hard to tell them apart. You can't shoot at full 50 megapixels, which is going to give you much more detail on the S25 Ultra. However, you're not going to get the same dynamic range at 50 megapixels like you will do at 12 megapixels because it won't have the same processing. It will also give you better low light images when you're using the ultra-wide camera because of that larger sensor size. Now, in addition to that, you get advantages for video too because the ultra-wide camera and that zoom camera now have 50 megapixels on the S25 Ultra. It means you can shoot 8K video from the ultra-wide, the primary, as well as that 5x telephoto zoom camera. On the S23 Ultra, you can only shoot 8K from the primary camera. The S25 Ultra also has better HDR. It manages HDR better compared to the S23 Ultra, although the HDR option is there on the S23 Ultra. It's just not as good. You also have up to 4K 120 frames a second on the S25 Ultra, as well as the ability to record in log and then grade your footage later. These are things that you don't have on the S23 Ultra. So I would say personally, when it comes to the cameras, overall, we do have some really good improvements on the S25 Ultra compared to the S23 Ultra. Now, another area where I would say that we've got a big improvement is when it comes to performance. So the S23 Ultra has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. This is a 4nm chip, and it has a base of 8 GB of RAM. It does go up to 12 GB. The S25 Ultra now has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. This is a 3nm chipset, and we have a base of 12GB of RAM. It's also got a much larger vapor chamber compared to the S23 Ultra. So what does all of that mean in the real world? Well, the S23 Ultra still performs pretty well on your day-to-day, and it's not going to give you any major issues. The S25 Ultra, especially when we look at benchmarks, is significantly faster, especially when it comes to multi-core performance. So although in your day-to-day you might not notice a huge deal of difference, when it comes to more intensive tasks such as gaming, you'll really appreciate the S25 Ultra. You're going to get better frame rates on games, you're going to get less heat, and you're going to get improved ray tracing. Now, I'm not a gamer myself, but my friend Thunder E from Board at Work is, and he's done a detailed gaming test on the S25 Ultra. I'll link that video down in the description below. Now, another thing to keep in mind when it comes to performance is how long will these devices last in the long run? Now, considering that the S23 Ultra is a couple of years old now, of course, the S25 Ultra is going to last much longer. And that is also the case when it comes to software updates. So Samsung has actually been pretty good with software updates on the S23 Ultra. Currently, you have Android 14 with One UI 6.1 at the time of this video. Samsung did promise 4 generations of Android OS updates and 5 years of security updates when the S23 Ultra released. Now, as soon as the S23 Ultra gets the Android 15 update with One UI 7, which I assume is going to be in the next few months, then you will only have 2 generations of Android OS updates and 3 years of security updates left. The S25 Ultra, on the other hand, comes with Android 15 with One UI 7 out of the box, and Samsung has promised 7 generations of Android OS updates. So that's going to last you way longer compared to the S23 Ultra. I'm not sure who uses their devices for that long, but if you are somebody who maybe hands your device down to family members, then that is really good to know. And that brings me on to Galaxy AI. Now, before I start, let me just give some props to Samsung for bringing lots of new Galaxy AI features to older devices. This is something that we don't really see from many others. So if we look at the S23 Ultra, it actually has a lot of new Galaxy AI features that we have on the S25 Ultra. Of course, we have some newer features on the S25 Ultra. Now, I'm going to go over these side by side so you know exactly what the differences are at this point in time. Now, how many of the newer features are going to be making their way to the S23 Ultra? At this point in time, we just don't know. So initially, when it comes to call assist, this is where you can live translate calls. Things are pretty similar on both devices. However, more languages are supported on the S25 Ultra. I don't see why these new languages won't be supported on the S23 Ultra. Chat Assist has been renamed to Writing Assist. This is where you'll be able to change the writing style and get suggestions. Again, both devices do have this, and the new features, I don't see why they can't come onto the S23 Ultra. Interpreter, similar to Call Assist. More languages are supported on the S25 Ultra. I don't see why they can't come to the S23 Ultra. Note Assist, where you can use AI to summarize and organize your notes, is on both devices. Transcript Assist is where things get interesting. So although on both devices, you can transcribe audio recordings, you can then summarize them. On the S25 Ultra, you also have the ability to record as well as auto-transcribe recorded calls. So when you are in a call, you can just press the icon. It's going to let the other person know that this call is being recorded. But after that conversation, you're going to be able to see a transcript of that conversation, and then you'll be able to summarize it too. I'm not sure if this is going to make its way to the S23 Ultra. Browsing Assist, one of my favorite features, being able to summarize web pages and also translate them. The new feature that we've got on the S25 Ultra is the ability to read highlights out aloud. This is something that is currently not on the S23 Ultra. Photo Assist, where you can use generative edit to remove people from the background, for example. Turn yourself into a cartoon and do lots of other fun things with your photos, including Drawing Assist, which I'm actually surprised is on the S23 Ultra. This is where you can just make a quick doodle of, say, a cat or a dog. And Galaxy AI is going to generate a very realistic looking object in your actual picture. Now, a new feature that we've got on the S25 Ultra is Audio Eraser, and this is something that works really well. It completely eliminates background noise in your videos, and you can just see an example here. Audio test on both devices. So we've got the S25 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. There's a lot of noise in the background from all of the cars and trucks. And let's see how well the S25 Ultra can erase that out with Audio Eraser. I'm not sure if this is going to make its way to the S23 Ultra. I'd assume Samsung would want to keep something like this pretty exclusive, but who knows? We've got the Now bar, which will be coming to the S23 Ultra with the One UI 7 update. And then we've got Now Brief, which gives you a bit of a summary of your day. Again, I don't see why this can't come on to the S23 Ultra. Now, one of the new things that we've got on the S25 Ultra is the combination of Gemini with Bixby. Gemini is now fully integrated into the S25 Ultra, and just by pressing the power button, you can activate it. On the S23 Ultra, at this point in time, we've got Bixby. Now, Gemini can be downloaded and used on the S23 Ultra, but it's not as integrated as it is on the S25 Ultra. So that is the summary of the Galaxy AI features. We actually have a decent amount on the S23 Ultra, which I am actually very impressed with. How many of the newer features are going to come onto the S23 Ultra? As I mentioned, Samsung has not officially disclosed this, so we're going to have to wait and see. Now for the speakers, we've got stereo speakers on both devices with Dolby Atmos. The S25 Ultra speakers are louder, they're clearer as well. There has been quite a big improvement on the S25 Ultra when we compare it to the S23 Ultra. Once again, my friend Thunder E from Board@Work has done a detailed speaker test on the S25 Ultra. I'll link that video down in the description below if you want to know more about that. In terms of connectivity, both devices have ultra-wideband technology, but the S25 Ultra does have Wi-Fi 7, which if you have a compatible router, will give you faster speeds compared to the S23 Ultra with Wi-Fi 6E. The S25 Ultra also has Bluetooth 5.4 compared to Bluetooth 5.3 on the S23 Ultra. This will give you faster data transfer rates, extended range, and it's also more power efficient. Now, there is also going to be SOS via satellite on the S25 Ultra. Currently, it's very limited in terms of support, but apparently more support is going to be coming over time. Now, for the batteries, well, both devices have the same physical size battery, 5,000 milliamps. However, you will get better battery life on the S25 Ultra, and that's thanks to the new Snapdragon 8 Elite chipset, which is much more efficient compared to the 8 Gen 2 that we've got on the S23 Ultra. How much more efficient? Well, in my usage, I've seen around a 20% improvement on the S25 Ultra compared to the S23 Ultra, which had relatively good battery life. Charging hasn't really changed. We've got up to 45 watts of wired charging, up to 15 watts of wireless charging. The S25 Ultra does have support for Qi 2 wireless charging, but the speeds disclosed are just 15 watts. Now, you will be able to use MagSafe accessories, providing that you have a MagSafe enabled case, because these devices do not have magnets inside. And both devices do have reverse wireless charging, wireless power share, so you'll be able to charge other devices on the back of these, such as earbuds. Now, I still have to say this is 2025, but just to clarify, neither of these devices come with a charger included out of the box. So if you are maybe on an older Samsung device and you expected a charger to come out of the box, this is not there. Neither do you have expandable storage. Neither of these come with expandable storage. Now, finally, looking at the pricing. So the S25 Ultra is priced higher in the US compared to what the S23 Ultra released at. However, in the UK, although the base 256GB model is starting at the same price that the S23 Ultra started at 2 years ago, it is around £50 lower for the 512 and 1TB versions. Now, having said that, of course, the S23 Ultra has been out for a couple of years now, so if you do go to buy it now, I've had a look and you're looking at around £600 to £650 or around $750 to pick this up, either new or renewed. So at this point in time, you will be able to pick up the S23 Ultra, either new or secondhand, around half the price of the S25 Ultra. However, we have to consider the pre-order deals that Samsung is offering on the S25 Ultra. So as I mentioned earlier on in this video, if you use my affiliate link down in the description, you can get double the storage as well as up to $350 in instant Samsung credit, depending on the carrier and size that you go for. But as a minimum, you can get up to $130 of instant Samsung credit. In addition to that, Samsung are offering a crazy $750 for the S23 Ultra if you trade it in. So to me, if you can get that deal and you can get up to $750 for your S23 Ultra when you trade it in, and then you can get double the storage as well as that credit, it's a no-brainer to upgrade. I would definitely upgrade my S23 Ultra to the S25 Ultra. However, you will be losing out on that Bluetooth S Pen. I don't know how much of a big deal that will be for you. Now, these deals are kind of exclusive to the US. A lot of people kind of complain in the comments saying, I'm a traitor as somebody who's born in the UK. But of course, the deals are not in my hands. It's what Samsung provides. So you can complain to Samsung why they don't give the same deals that they give in the US in the rest of the world. So if you've got the S23 Ultra right now, once again, I always emphasize, if you're happy with your device, you do not need to upgrade. You can hold on to it for as long as you want. Remember, there are still 2 years of Android OS updates coming to the S23 Ultra, and you still have lots of Galaxy AI features on there, as well as the Bluetooth on the S Pen. But if you want a better and brighter display with Gorilla Armor 2, those improved cameras, the Snapdragon 8 Elite with the performance updates and the efficiency with improved battery life, as well as those additional software updates that you're going to be getting on the S25 Ultra, in my opinion, it's a great smartphone right now, and I can definitely recommend it depending on the deal that you get. That's what I think anyway. What do you guys think? Drop me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Now, if you're wondering how the S25 Ultra compares to last year's S24 Ultra, I have covered that in this video here. And if you want to see how the cameras of the S25 Ultra stack up against something like the iPhone, that video is covered here. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then do smash that like button for me. This is the video that a lot of people were requesting. I'm assuming that some people are on their 2-year upgrade cycle and they wanted to know whether it's worth it. I hope it was some help. If you want to see more videos like this, as always, do consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSaf TV, and I'll see you next time.